So my personal belief, especially after reading the 1996 NSA, which is a government agency white paper on how to create a mint, is that Bitcoin was the Trojan horse. And I don't think it was a coincidence that it came out in January of 2009 and quantitative easing started in March, because they need to have things look as normal as possible so that you don't know that anything has changed when in reality, everything has changed. Now, going back to the Bank for International Settlements money flower, there is a very small place for private cryptocurrencies that do not travel or under the purview of central banks. There's a much larger space for commodity money, so gold and silver. So there will be some private ones that survive. But the visibility that Bitcoin has gotten in its first run up to 70,000 and inside the ETFs, people that buy gold and people that buy cryptocurrencies have the same kind of, typically, unless they're trading, have the same kind of concerns and mentality. In other words, they're trying to do something that's outside of the system. Michelle, do you really think that Bitcoin is outside of the system now?
Look, I have raised this as a personal point of concern that bringing Bitcoin ETFs does bring Bitcoin back into the traditional financial system, which it was supposed to be an alternative to. I personally have raised this as being contrary to the decentralized, independent ethos of Bitcoin, which, as you say, appeals to the same libertarian mentality that sees the debasement and devaluation of fiat currency and wants to find an alternative. So I do flag that as a big concern that, yes, it's good for the price and it's maybe good for adoption, but it's not so good if you're looking for Bitcoin to be an alternative to the system.
Singapore, France, and Switzerland, and pooled their CBDCs in a common kind of offshore pool that was an automated market maker. And in that automated market maker, all the currencies could trade against each other.
Interoperability of economies actually connect more than 200 countries, and particularly their payments and securities infrastructures with each other.
The ability to enhance each other's understanding, the ability to connect the diverse economies, 200 or so countries in the world, and make sure the payment system works for all different profiles of companies.
And fairer, we need systems that connect countries. In other words, we need interoperability.
We do want to have an open and interoperable system. Central bank digital currencies are not constructed to be interoperable.
Interoperability between central bank digital currencies
is very much, there needs to be interoperability globally. And even in a world of CBDCs, you still need interoperability to solve.
It has to work interoperably with anyone, anywhere.
And fairer, we need systems that connect countries. In other words, we need interoperability.
So at Ripple, what we are doing is focusing on building out that DLT international.
I believe that banking institutions are more dangerous to our liberties than standing armies. If the American people ever allow private banks to control the issuance of their currency, first by inflation, then by deflation, the banks and corporations that will grow up around the banks will deprive the people of all property until their children wake up homeless on the continent their fathers conquered. The issuing power should be taken from the banks and restored to the people, to whom it properly belongs. Thomas Jefferson, 3rd President of the United States.
Today's ceremony, however, has very special meaning, because today we are not merely transferring power from one administration to another or from one party to another, but we are transferring power from Washington, D.C., and giving it back to you, the people.
Most of crypto is about replacing the centralized banking system with networks that allow user control versus bank CEO control.
If there is one message that you can get in this room is Ripple is not an ordinary company. We are here to make a dent in the universe. Either we will change the remittance universe, the way you understand, the way value gets transferred across the world, between people, between institutions, or we will just fade out.
He told the Queen, I'm ending this. We're dissolving this corporation. We're going to go back to being a republic and we'll all be separate. The Pope wasn't happy. You should find the picture of him visiting the Pope. It took 650 planes to remove our gold from the Vatican Bank.
I'm not very happy about it, Jan, to be perfectly honest. We could do with your money at the minute. Keep it flowing, I say. Jan Halberhayes, really good to...
Wow. Wow.
There's so much there.
So much. Nino, in a nutshell, our answers, our prayers have been answered. In essence, everything that we know in our heart and everything that we love about the Constitution of the United States, that life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, no taxation without representation, no big central king, no foreign involvement in our nation. We get to have common law and not admiralty law. We get to have real money. We didn't even have an income tax until 1913. Okay, there's everything that is coming to the surface in the public today should be nothing but celebrated news, no matter who you are, race, religion, politics. It should not matter, because how in the world does truth hurt us? Truth isn't a weapon. Truth sets us free. It's not a weapon.
Trump set a trap and they fell into it. And what we're watching right now is them getting snared in the trap, and they can't help themselves. Juanito has told me, I'm like, I asked Juan, I go, Juan, don't they know what they're getting involved, what they're getting into? They're like, did Satan know what he was going to do when he crucified Christ? You know, it's the same thing. They fell into the trap. And so they're just so adamant about making these moves and getting in, and it's like evil doesn't have the long game.
Indicators of when a fiat currency is going to decline into a collapse is when those who are holding its debt sell the debt, and the government, central bank, has to print money to buy that debt in large size while that's going down. Those are the most important indicators, so that you can see it. Again, I want to repeat, selling the debt so that there's a big supply-demand imbalance, and the central bank having to come in there and buy the debt that no one else will buy in large quantity, so that then there's a currency devaluation. You have those three things aligned, the currency devaluation going down at the same time as those other two things are happening, and that's been a classic. It's like a bank run. They come to the bank, there's not enough money in the bank, and so they have to make up the difference by the printing of money.
Hello. My name is Montague William III. And what I will tell you may well sound absurd, but the less who believe it, the better for me. For you see, I'm in banking and big industry. For many a year we have controlled your lives, while you all just struggle and suffer in strife. We created the things that you don't really need, your sports cars and fashions and plasma TVs. I remember it clearly how all this begun. Family secrets from father to son, inherited knowledge that gives me the edge, while you people lie sleeping at night in your beds. We control the money that controls your lives, whilst you worship false idols and wouldn't think twice about selling your souls for a place in the sun. These things that won't matter when your time is done. But as long as they're there to control the masses, I just sit back and consider my assets, safe in the knowledge that I have it all, while you common people are losing your jobs. You see, I just hold you in utter contempt. But the smile on my face, well, it makes me exempt. For I have the weapon of global TV, which gives us connection and invites empathy. you would really believe that we look out for you, while we bankers and brokers are only a few. But if you saw that, you'd take back the power. Hence, daily terrors to make you all cower. The panics, the crashes, the wars, and the illness that keep you from finding your spiritual wholeness. We rig the game, and we buy out both sides to keep you enslaved in your pitiful lives.
Over time, your money gets you less. Does Bitcoin? Well, in 2012, one Bitcoin bought you this much pizza. In 2016, this much pizza. In 2020, this much pizza. And in 2024, well, you get the gist. Roughly every 4 years, the future supply of Bitcoin is reduced. So historically, you get more, not less.
So, what is money, and how does it get value? Paper money has value because someone says so. Bitcoin is different. It's like digital gold. It has value for many of the reasons gold does, but that's only the start. Gold originally had value because it was scarce, but no one knows how much is left to dig up. Bitcoin, on the other hand, has a limited supply, 21 million, and it can never be counterfeited. Every day, more people are buying it, making it more scarce, making it more valuable. But you can also split it up, because every Bitcoin is divisible by a lot. Each Bitcoin can be split into 100 million smaller units. So if one Bitcoin was worth $1 million, the smallest unit, called a Satoshi, would be worth 1 penny. So you can send whatever amount you want, and no one can stop you, because no central authority controls it. So unlike with banks and credit card companies, you don't need approval to use it, and no one can decide to just print more or shut it down. It puts the power back in all our hands. Bitcoin lets you control your finances. Kraken lets you buy Bitcoin. Kraken, see what crypto can be.
Pay insufficient attention to the frightening scenario of a comprehensive cyber attack, which would bring to a complete halt to the power supply, transportation, hospital services, our society as a whole. The COVID-19 crisis would be seen in this respect as a small disturbance in comparison to a major cyber attack.